Lando was bold, but Max was in control.
He's been pushed all the way, but Max Verstappen wins once again in Formula One and takes the checkered flag in Spain. Hurried home by Lando Norris, who takes second place, 2.2 seconds at the checkered flag.
We're definitely not the quickest out there today, but we did everything well, strategy, so yes.
It doesn't matter really, does it? Man, I should have won at the start. The car was amazing, well done, deserve more.
McLaren had the fastest car this weekend, so why and how did Red Bull end up on top? Welcome to the Barcelona paddock for F1 Nation's review of the Spanish Grand Prix. This is going to be a game of two halves. Sat next to me, I have former McLaren driver and current Aston Martin ambassador Pedro de la Rosa, and once he's finished interviewing in the TV pen, we'll be joined by ESPN's Juan Fossaroli. So Pedro, let's get your initial reaction to that 66-lap race.
Yeah, it was generally a really interesting Grand Prix, very tactical with two stops, even some people doing three stops, so there was plenty of action in the pit stops. There was a fantastic start by especially George Russell, which proved that you don't not only need to make a good start, you also need to get a good toe in this circuit, from pole position to the first corners over 600 meters. And then to beat Max Verstappen, you not only need to have a better car, possibly, but you also need to make zero mistakes. The moment you leave the door a bit open or you brake a bit early into the turn one, it's game over. He's just a very strong driver, possibly the most complete driver out there.
Let's talk about that gripping battle for victory now, and we'll start by hearing from the two drivers who fought very hard to beat each other, Lando Norris and first, Max Verstappen.
It wasn't straightforward. I mean, at the start, I think it was quite critical to get ahead of Lando, looking at it now. And then I think also what was very important was getting ahead of George, so that first thing that I could eke out a bit of a gap. And I think that all worked well. Then I think we're quite aggressive on the strategy as a team with our pit stops. So I think as a whole package performance, we had a good race. We really tried to maximize everything. But I do think that we're struggling a bit for the optimum pace, lacking a bit of tire deg towards the end of every stint. So it wasn't a very straightforward, easy race. I mean, Lando was catching quite hard at the end, but luckily it worked out, that it was just enough.
As you say, Lando was catching you at the end. Do you think you or Lando had the fastest car today?
I can only, of course, speak about myself, and I think we are struggling a little bit for that outright pace, it felt like. Plus, I feel like, we didn't have the best tire life today compared to Lando. It just seemed like he could push a bit more in some corners. And, of course, we were a bit offset at one point with the tires as well because he went a bit longer in the first stint. But we still optimized everything. I mean, I can't really say that we did something wrong in the race, but we just need to try and find more performance.
All right, very well done today. Thank you. Max, Lando, let's come to you now. Big picture, first of all, how would you sum up your race to P2?
Not good enough, simply because we should have won today. I think, to answer the question you asked, Max, I think we had the quickest car, but I just lost it at the start, and then I couldn't get past George for the first stint. So I think we quite easily had the best car out there today. I just didn't do a good enough job off the line, and then that one thing cost me everything. So from turn 2 onwards, 10 out of 10. I don't think I could have done much more. And I think as a team, we did the perfect strategy. And I was very happy with what we did. But the one part at the start, the 1% elsewhere, wasn't good enough.
Well, talk us through the start, Lando. Was it too much wheel spin, or what happened on the run down to turn 1?
No, I mean, my initial launch, I think, was better than Max. The second phase, the drive out, was not as good. I don't know anything more than that, apart from Max got alongside me. And let's say if George wasn't there, I think I still could have kept on to first around turn 1. But George had a run on both of us, so even if my start was 1 or 2 meters better, which I think was all I probably could have done, just the long run down to turn 1, the slipstream from the Mercedes on both Max and myself was more than anything that I could have done. So I almost think George would have led no matter what, even if my start was 2 meters better. That's what happens in Barcelona, and George got a good start, and I couldn't do anything about that. So I settled in. I had to take third in turn 2 because if I break 2 meters later, I think I would have taken everyone out with me. So I made the correct decision of backing out and kind of letting George have it. But today we were the quickest. We had the best car. I had the best car out there, and I didn't maximize it. The start's down to me, and with a good start, we easily should have won.
So was it all down to the start, Pedro? Was it the fact that Lando, in his words, made a mess of the start?
I think the start obviously was very important because first lap he was P3, he lost not only one position, but he lost two. I think that what really damaged Lando's chances of winning this race was the fact that he couldn't overtake on the first few laps George. I think those laps behind George, managing the tires on that first stint, paid off, towards the end of the race. He was faster than Max at the end, but it was just, there was not enough. Also, there's some things that we have to analyze, because I think that there's a point in the race, a very interesting moment, where Lando and McLaren team have to decide if they go for victory or they settle for second. Do they cover Lewis Hamilton, that was coming with new tires and had done a pit stop and was on soft tires, or they decide just to forget about covering him, extending their second stint and just go for a soft tire towards the end with a bigger delta in tire life to Max. And they decided to pit to cover Lewis, not having to go through what he had to do with George before. And therefore they ended up the race with a similar tire life on both the soft that Verstappen had, and it was a brand new set for Max and Lando that had used his new set of softs at the beginning. So basically they had a 3 life difference in tire life, but it was actually a new tire for Max, an old tire for Lando, which was the tire delta was 0.
Given that McLaren had better tyre life and a faster car in that race, do you think they're going to be in the debrief right now, just behind us, thinking we should have been more aggressive?
Well, I mean, it's very easy to say after, we should have done this or the other. But the reality is that when Max had to be aggressive, when Max had to play his cards, he did it. And after that, he just had to manage the race as best as possible, but always in a very intelligent manner. I think what they did today was... but you cannot do this without a driver like Max. I think that the bottom line is that Max is... He's a fantastic guy when he starts on pole position, but he's even possibly a stronger driver when he's not on pole position.
He's sensational at the moment, isn't he? But can I take you back to the start? Racing driver head on, Pedro now. Lando says that he didn't make the ideal getaway. He actually thinks he made a better start than Max, the initial getaway. But I would argue strongly that he became too obsessed with Max and went too far to the right-hand side, and that just gave George Russell a clean sweep around the outside of turn 1, and that if he'd stayed a bit to the left, stopped Russell coming through, he could have gone round the outside of Verstappen at turn 1 anyway. Or am I being too harsh?
You might be right. It's just that it's so difficult when you're starting a race and you just your mind is not on looking elsewhere. You're looking to the guy that's trying to overtake you at that moment, which was Max. So yeah, he got obsessed on Max, but that's something that I would have done. Every racing driver would have done. Now, on hindsight, what he should have done, which is very easy and to say, he should have stayed on the racing line, the clean line, brake later than Max, who was on the inside, and try to keep the first position on the outside. By doing that, he would have blocked in a way George, which got a fantastic tow from Max, then from Lando, and then he braked on the clean line. Anyway, easy to say now, but it was very well played by George generally, because he saw the opportunity. One thing that I really liked about George is the fact that he saw that they were fighting for position. He went for the tow of Max, then for Lando, and then he went on the braking on the clean side, So basically, he didn't go immediately to the clean side of the grid. He knew that he had to get the tow from them to actually have a chance to overtake them in the braking into turn 1. So I think it was really, really good how George played his cards, and Lando, on Lando's view, of course, he was only concentrating on stopping Max somehow.
He also left room on the inside, George, didn't he? So he didn't cut immediately across in front of Lando and Max. He left room, still made the apex of 2. It was a very sort of intelligent overtake
Well, I mean, it is a bit of everything, you know. He took his chances braking that late on the clean side, yeah, it's true. But on the outside, I mean, if Lando wouldn't have braked that early, because he was the guy that braked first into turn one, and he would have tried and to brake later than Max and try to keep him covered on the outside, they would have collided, or he would have touched wheels with George. I think what Lando really lost here in the start was the fact that he was, at one point, he was not expecting that George would challenge the position into turn one. And when he suddenly saw that George was braking and was braking later on the outside on the racing line, that really caught him out, and then he just braked a bit too early, and it was enough for George to overtake both of them.
It was only Lando's second pole position in Formula One. How much of this is sort of nerves, excitement?
I mean, this is racing, Tom. I mean, there's nothing wrong to what Lando did. I always say that
but
it was Max and George taking better decisions in a given moment, because it's difficult to say that Lando did something wrong or he got obsessed by Max, which he did. But if Lando's start would have been better, we don't know if his clutch slipped or if there was any problem with the clutch map or whatever, So maybe, in fact, Lando did nothing wrong and he just had to live with a poor start. But it is part of racing, There's always you just take your chances. It's just that some mistakes are more painful than others, and especially in Barcelona, a circuit where it's overtaking is traditionally complicated. To lose a pole position, it's always very painful. And I understand Lando, but he shouldn't be too hard on himself.
Well, why is he being so harsh on himself?
Well, I think that it goes to the character of the drivers. I mean, I really like drivers like Lando. Also, Charles is very much like him in the sense that they are drivers that when the race is over or they analyze what went wrong, they always are very autocritical. They like to blame themselves in a sense that they also contributed for not winning, and this is very self-assuring, or it's to see drivers that actually see themselves as part of the equation. That it's not always the cars, the tires, the competitors. Sometimes it's us that we are not optimizing what we have. And Lando and Charles are two particular drivers that I really like, because they're always they like to put themselves in the spot.
Now, we haven't seen Lando and Max go wheel to wheel that much since Lando came into Formula One in 2019, because Max has always had the better car, significantly better car on occasions. And that run to turn one, when he squeezed Max and actually put him on the grass, I thought was a line in the sand from Lando, a bit of a marker, as if to say, I'm here, and actually we are now racing, and you're not going to walk all over me, and watch out for me. Did you read the same things, or?
I thought that it was a clean move from Lando, honestly, I think that he could have pushed him harder.
But hang on, he was already on the grass.
Yeah, but he did it a bit late. If he had positioned his car a bit earlier into the grass, or just obviously when he did it, it was too late to do it more, because then you obviously are going to squeeze the guy in a illegal way. But if he had done it a bit earlier, I think Max would have found himself in a much more difficult situation, because he would have seen that George was just side by side. But anyway, it's easy to say. I mean, I don't want to sound like I know everything. It's just like, it is true that I think Lando was protective. He was defensive, but he could have pushed him a bit harder.
Can we just explore Max Verstappen a little bit more now? We've had 4 different pole sitters in the last 4 races, yet Max Verstappen has won 3 of them.
Yeah. And the only one that he's not won is the one that you cannot overtake, with it, which is Monaco. And then he settled for position there in a very intelligent manner. I think we're seeing the best of Max Verstappen this season in terms of matureness. He knows when he can win. He knows when he has to settle for a non-win. And more importantly, when he has the chance, when there is a small little gap, he goes for it. And he takes advantage of the situation. It was really good with his race engineer, when his race engineer said, we believe this is the best possibility we have to overtake George. And immediately, I mean, a few seconds later, he's just overtaking him, you know. So I think he knows when he has to manage the tires, when he must not manage the tires. And this is a part of this process of building up a world champion, you know, and he's now at an extremely high level. I'm pretty sure that today Max is more proud of what he's done than when he's had these wins with over half a minute, you know, because he realizes that he has made the difference.
And what have Red Bull got to do now to maintain this advantage? Because Max is so integral to these victories that have happened over the last month or so. You know, I mean, I know Checo Perez had a 3-place grid penalty here, but you know, he's still coming home in P8, and he's still only qualifying 8th before the penalty. You feel that Red Bull have got to bring more performance to that car, or even the magic of Max Verstappen's not going to keep them ahead? Or do you actually think he can keep it going, keep the run going?
Well, I mean, I don't really know, you know. I mean, the beauty about Formula One is that races like today in such a circuit where the car is so important, the aerodynamics, the mechanical side, the engine, the tires, you know, everything is just like, it's so demanding. And you have 3 different cars at the podium. You have a Red Bull, you have a McLaren and a Mercedes. I think this is fantastic for Formula One. So I think just proves that it is the 4 teams now very close in the championship, and that little details will mark the difference. And the details are normally decisions made by the team, but also by the drivers, in this case, Max Verstappen.
Pedro, I thought it was fascinating that Red Bull went to Imola on the eve of this race with a 2-year-old car, just to put that car over the curbs, compare it to what the RB20 did a month ago at that track, as they explore where to find the performance on that car. It proves that even that team, with all this success, and even, let's face it, the advantage they have in both World Championships still, are pushing to the absolute limit.
I think every team in Formula One does that, you know. We are all pushing to the very limit. We are trying to find performance from every detail. I think it is very important to listen to the drivers and what they say and what they need. You know, Formula One cars, engines are full of sensors. We have over 200 sensors in the chassis, 200 sensors in the engine, but there's only one sensor that really can tell you what the car needs to go faster, and that sensor is called the driver. So I think that the fact that teams that are dominating Formula One, like Red Bull, listen to the driver so much, you know, and if they're complaining about curb riding, which is a difficult parameter to analyze on the data, it just proves that they are touching every little performance differentiator, you know, and it is incredible that they do this. They go to Imola again with the old car. They can do it. It's part of the regulations. You know, you can test with TPCs, with previous cars. However, I mean, I think everyone does that in Formula One. It's not a unique thing of Red Bull. I think we are all looking performance under the stones.
We're joined by Juan Fossaroli now, who I think, tell me if I'm wrong, has just been at the Red Bull celebrations. Is that right?
I've been in the Red Bull celebration. Hi, Tom. Hi, Pedro.
Hello.
And also in the McLaren celebration.
You've been busy. You don't smell of champagne.
I have like a meter of enthusiasm, and far Red Bull was more enthusiasm and cheering up all the team than McLaren. But obviously, no, they lost a race that they can win.
Now, Pedro's just said that he thinks Max is enjoying the wins maybe more this year than ever before because of the way he's having to fight. Did you sense that in the celebration?
Yeah, and also I see him a little bit more tired. Even he's super fit. He's sweating now, no? Like compared to maybe last year in some races that it was so big the difference that you can tell that obviously he's driving a Formula One car. Pedro knows very well that you never relax inside a Formula car. But when you have a big margin, you can do different things. And today he have to fight for that. And remember yesterday in the free practice when the Giampiero told him to do a very good start because it's going to be the key of the weekend, and he did it. And that was the factor of the win overtaking Lando. Then, obviously, the job he did overtaking George was fantastic also. But it was very close, 2.2 seconds at the end. Even they were managing a little bit at the end. But McLaren, I did the interview with Max in the pen, and he said that McLaren is the fastest car right now.
And do we think it will be going forward to Austria, to Silverstone?
Well, I think Austria and Silverstone, the next two races, firstly, we are in a triple header, so basically there's not a lot of time to react from the teams or to bring upgrades. Plus, in Austria, we have a sprint race, which adds more difficulty really in introducing upgrades. Is that there are circuits that are very similar. They have very high-speed corners, all type of corners, but also quite long. I think that, cars that are competitive in Barcelona will be competitive in Austria and Silverstone. They're similar tracks.
Lewis Hamilton is about to climb on a Formula One podium for the first time this year.
Great job, guys. Mega. What a great surprise to come here and get these points. We're making improvements. Let's keep pushing. We're nearly there.
Guys, can we bring it on to Mercedes now? They've scored back-to-back podiums for the first time since Spain and Canada last year, funnily enough. It was George Russell on the rostrum in Canada, and of course Lewis took his first podium of the year here in Barcelona with that P3. Let's start by hearing from the 7-time world champion.
Big boost to finally get a good result. It's been a minute since I've been up here in the race, so we're slowly getting closer. I mean, last year we were very fast here, so you have to take it with a pinch of salt, but obviously the last couple of races we've also been relatively competitive. So I think we have closed the gap a little bit, but we still have a good couple of attempts to try and find. So we just got to have all hands on deck and keep pushing.
Are you still fine-tuning this new package, or do you need more upgrades to close the gap to these two guys?
I think that's the maximum it's got at the moment. But I mean, we're always fine-tuning it with subtle changes that we make. So we are always fine-tuning it when we continue to tune it through the year. But we need to bolt some stuff on, some extra bits to be able to compete with these guys.
Now, you had to overtake Carlos Sainz twice today. He was unhappy about the first of those moves, saying that you should have given the place back. Can we just get your take on what happened at turn one there?
It's not a good feeling when you do get overtaken, and I think we had a nice tight battle into turn one. I left in some room, so I think he was still on the track, but ultimately he left the door open on the inside, didn't fully close it, and so I went for the inside and tried to make the corner. I think he came round. I think we touched wheels equally and nothing major. It was like a small scrub. Gave him some room on the exit, and yeah.
All right, let's throw it forward now. Do you feel Mercedes are building some momentum now?
We definitely are. We definitely are. We're definitely getting more consistent. And if I can just get my qualifying to be like this weekend, then it makes the Sunday so much easier. Also, if you get a good start. But my Saturdays have been so bad for the last 15 races. So it's good to have a clean weekend. And hopefully this puts us in a good position to challenge in the next few races.
So this is Lewis's best weekend of the season so far. Primarily, I think, because qualifying went so well for him. It is now 8-2 in favour of George Russell in the qualifying head-to-head. So he's still got a lot of work to do. But what do we think changed for Hamilton here?
Good question. First of all, I think Luis has been very competitive the past few races, since, especially since Mercedes introduced the upgrade or the changes in the car. He feels more comfortable driving the car. Whatever they've done, it's obviously... he feels stronger, or he looks stronger. But if you look at what he did here last year, he finished second. And he did a hard, soft strategy, 2 stops. And it was exactly identical to what he did here today. So all in all, I just think that Mercedes is a lot stronger than in previous races, especially last year. And that now Luis feels more comfortable with the car. Let's not forget that Mercedes more or less did the same last year here as well, So I still think that Mercedes are a fantastic team. They will challenge Ferrari, of course, but also Red Bull and McLaren. And in the coming races, they've proven in a very different track like Canada. They were up there, they were fighting. They've been leading the 2 last Grand Prix. How great is that from a team that was quite far back at the beginning of the year?
We've already discussed George Russell's start here today. How did he How did he not win that race after that blinding start? Or do you actually think it just came down to tyre deg?
Yeah, tyre deg. I think they still miss a few tenths, no? Like Ferrari. I mean, I think that no one could keep the pace. It's just funny that we see the qualifying and there's not much in between the top 4 teams, you know? I mean, there's like virtually nothing. And then when it comes to the race, tyre deg makes the difference. And best cars are the ones that have less tyre deg. I mean, we were, for example, we were just 2 tenths from pole position in Canada. You know,
we being Aston Martin.
Aston Martin, yeah. 2 tenths. It's just very, very. You know, it's not a lot. But then in the race, we had the gap to the leading cars was huge, or bigger than 2 tenths. You know, so I think that it's just the fact that McLaren and Red Bull are close to Ferrari and Mercedes on over 1 lap in qualifying, but then in the race, it's just that they pull a gap, you know, and that's why George, going back to your original question, didn't manage to win this race. It's just their degradation was worse than the 2 other cars.
But why did they put him on the hard tyre? We could see from practice that it wasn't the tyre to go on, and yet they put him on the hard tyre. Ferrari put Carlos Sainz on the hard tyre.
Well, fair enough. I mean, it's just they had a lot of laps to cover. You know, it was only Lando and Luis, but especially Lando, that it was clear that he was going for a soft tires at the end, because he was extending his first stint to lap 21, I think. So he was extending just to attack at the end, knowing that he was not able at the beginning, and he was jumped, he was undercut by 3 other cars. So it's not about, I mean, you pick up a hard tire towards the end if you have a long stint to go for. But obviously Lando had a shorter stint, Verstappen more or less, and Hamilton, he said that it was his default strategy, just to go for the soft at the end.
And Juan, do you think when what is it? This was his 198th podium in Formula One, Lewis Hamilton.
It's a typical Mercedes track, even with the changes they did last year, but he feels very good here, and he was waiting for that. He was very happy in the rostrum and in the pen also, because he said that he was able to fight, to overtake. He did a great overtake also in the first corner. And when Hamilton is happy...
I don't think Carlos Sainz agrees with you.
I don't know, but it was close. We saw a lot of close battles, even with Carlos and his teammate, or the same with Lando. But I think, Lewis... He have the spark, still have the spark. I don't like, all this, we're not going to go into this, but you know, when it's starting to talking about what happened if the car is not the same, well, you know, what happened when you're not staying in the team, all the information you're not going to have for the future car or inside the team, but they're going to give a very good car for Lewis. No, which team is not going to give a 7-time world champion? They've been together for a long time, but he was not feeling the car like last year. Last year, he was 3rd in the championship. No, this year, George is more, consistent than Lewis. But when Lewis have the car and he feels comfortable, I think he performed like today.
Pedro, all racing drivers are fueled by paranoia, though, right?
No, I mean, why are you looking at me?
Because I'm not a racing driver, nor why.
Why are you looking at me?
But isn't it?
I'm paranoid about you looking at me like that.
But I feel that that's what drives drivers to perform at the level they do. There's almost a need to prove yourself the whole time. And I can't be slower than my teammate. It must be the equipment.
Well, it's just difficult for the racing drivers, because we have to work with the teammates to improve the car. We have to be open. We have to explain everything. You know, he's our first rival. And especially when you don't have a winning car, if you need to beat your teammate, because they will only look at the results. They won't look at how many race wins or fastest laps or podiums you've achieved, because if your car is not capable of doing that, they will only look at who beat who, how many times, especially in qualifying, and this is something that we know, and that is it's an added pressure.
Lewis said to us in the press conference that it's been 15 races now that he feels he hasn't, up to this race. He said yesterday was great here, but he said there'd been 15 races where he felt he hadn't got the best out of the car. Well, he didn't quite phrase it like that, but where he'd struggled in qualifying. 15 is a lot.
Yeah, well,
for a guy who's got more than 100 pole positions.
But we've seen from Luis, really is a super driver, and he's been driving I mean, people can say that he's not motivated and things like that. I really think it's out of the equation. You know, I mean, of course he's motivated and he wants to end his Mercedes era really on a high. And but he's been very fast in a free practice 1, 2, 3, then qualifying 1, and then in qualifying 2 he's not that quick, and in qualifying 3 he's beaten by George. We've seen it many times. Maybe sometimes you're just pushing a bit too hard in Q3 to get that extra tenth that's not there in the car, and then you start overdriving. There's so many reasons we don't know about what happened.
Do you guys think he's at all worried about what's going on at Ferrari? Because while it seems Mercedes are building a bit of momentum now, they introduced that new front wing in Monaco and it's just got better and better since then. And one of the engineers at Mercedes said to me coming into this weekend, we now feel we have all the ingredients we need. We're still working out how much of each we need to put in to get the best mixture, to get the best performance out of the car, but we have the raw ingredients. Whereas Ferrari seem to be yo-yoing around as much as they always have done, or in recent years. Is that a concern to Lewis Hamilton as he looks ahead to 25?
Obviously, he signed Ferrari because something that he had seen, or even the whole thing going, you end your career in Ferrari, maybe what he was living in Mercedes and the way they offer him the contract, all that. He's convinced that maybe Ferrari is going to do a step forward. And we were all happy, with the win of Carlos and even what happened with Max in Australia with the win of Carlos, then Charles fighting and being second in the championship, very consistent. We thought it was one-off Canada. Now they are a little bit more worried about what happened today here. But I think they're going to bounce back. They have a lot of support. We don't know what's going to happen with Adrian, no? Some people say he's going to join.
Pedro, do you know what's happening with Adrian? Adrian,
maybe
of course not.
He was seen
buying
something around Silverstone. But anyway, I think he see the power of Ferrari. Well, Pedro knows very well how Ferrari works. It's been a long time since Ferrari is not fighting here for wins, and they won last year 1 race. Now they won 2 already. I don't know if he's going to be so worried about how is Mercedes going to perform, because I think he took the decision not because of performance with Mercedes. I think that sometimes you want to change air, you want a new challenge. No, I think so. Obviously, if Mercedes have a winning car, he will not sign.
Racing drivers generally, we are, well, at least we are very well known for looking to short term. So I don't think that Luis, for example, I think that he's just thinking on the next few races. He has a very good car. I mean, Mercedes have come up with a car that can challenge for wins depending on the tracks, and that's what he's thinking about. I mean, if Ferrari come up with a better car, or they're doing yo-yo like you say, Tom, I think that it's not part of his mental process. He's just I think he's just preparing himself very well for the next few races because he has a chance of winning some of them.
The issue for Ferrari over these last few races has been tyres. Brilliant at Monaco. They struggled in Montreal, getting the tyres into the right window. It was better here. Pedro, I guess this is a question for you, but why is it such a black art to get the tyres in the right window with these current cars? Why is it so difficult?
Well, it is. I think that more than the black art or getting the tires in the right window, I think everything goes together. It's the suspension, the aerodynamics, and how they interact. But it's more dependent really on the right height of the car. If we are talking about a low speed corner, then the right height of the car is very high. So some cars are designed to generate more downforce at high downforce. Possibly the Ferrari, because they were extremely fast, and they've been always very fast in low-speed corners, such as Monaco, where they won. There's cars that are better in medium speed, and some others that are extremely quick in high-speed corners, where basically the right height is very low, which is kissing the asphalt. The difficulty really of these cars is to make cars that are versatile. That they are quick in slow, medium, and high speed. That's what you require in Barcelona. That's what you require possibly in Austria and Silverstone. So that's why we are talking about a very demanding tracks. And that's why, the fact that Ferrari, in the words of Carlos Sainz today, he said, we are struggling in high-speed corners. So therefore, if you struggle in high-speed corners, you're going to have more degradation. because high-speed corners with high stress, you increase the temperature, you have thermal degradation, etc. So it is not a simple answer. It is quite complicated with the ground effect, and I think that is what makes the engineers scratch their heads. It's not a straight answer. Some circuits suit cars better than others.
Now look, Pedro, I know you've got to go, but look, before you go, can we just quickly talk about Aston Martin, all right? Double points finish in Montreal last time out. Struggled more here, Alonso 12th, Stroll 14th. Was it for all of the reasons you've just outlined while talking about Ferrari that you guys were struggling here as well?
I think before coming here, we knew it was going to be a difficult track. In Canada, the car, obviously the track was more favorable to our car, where we have there's longer straights, there's heavy braking, stability, there's some strengths that they played into our car. Here, obviously, it was going to be more difficult. We knew it, and that's where we've been more or less where we were expecting to be.
And Tom McCulloch, performance director at Aston, came on this show last week and said he thinks it'll get better as the triple header goes on. So you'll be better at Austria, maybe you'll be better at Silverstone.
I think that honestly, Tom knows a lot more than me. He's the performance director and a fantastic engineer. Personally, I think that the next two races will be difficult. So I think we are not expecting a very different outcome really than to Barcelona. However, the team is working very well in the campus, in our factory. We know why we are here, and we know exactly where to work, and just we're heading in the right direction. So we just have to be a bit patient, which is difficult in this sport. But I have a very good feeling about the team and how we're working in-house and the results that are coming from the campus already.
And I think Fernando have the same opinion, because he said it in the pen, thinking, we're going to have this Austria and Silverstone, but maybe we're going to start seeing something after Hungary or in Hungary. Maybe it's a racetrack that maybe suits a little bit better. And
but then we go to Spa.
Yeah, we go to Spa, but I think after the break, it's not the way you start the season, it's how you finish. No, last year was the other way around.
I think Fernando said it's time not to promise or too much.
We have to
under promise, over deliver, which I think
spent too much time with Jackie Stewart.
I wish not enough.
But
obviously,
that's Jackie's great line, isn't it? Under promise.
But I think this is the
deliver.
line of the good racers, and that's why I don't like to promise things, or firstly because I don't know enough. Secondly, because I think that you just have to prove things. And if you look at the World Championship teams, they never sell their upgrades, or if they're bringing, they suddenly win. And you wonder, well, they were not bringing any upgrade. No, they were bringing, but they were not saying it. So it's part of the Formula One, part of the game. So let's under promise, over deliver, keep our head down, keep our self-confidence up, and keep working as a team.
I love to hear Pedro, because I know him from long time ago. I was very little when he was racing in Japan. He was champion there, and we have a great time over there.
Fantastic.
I know him from 96, 97, something. Less than that, And he was living in Japan, and super fast driver.
Racing with Norberto Fontana. Good friend of
Is
ours.
that why you were there, with Norberto Fontana?
Yeah, I was with Norberto in one race in Fuji. They touch and they crash.
Oh, yeah.
And
Pedro and Norberto.
He pushed me off, man.
He was okay, I'm okay with it.
and we went to an Italian restaurant. Only one Italian restaurant
in Gotemba City, which is.
And we went inside, and Pedro was very pissed, and also Norberto. I don't want to see him. He's my friend, but what happened? Blah blah blah. Both of them. And then we go to the restaurant. Who was sitting there? Only two tables, and Pedro was there. Well, a big hug, and that happened. But
I remember because I was with my wife there having dinner, and I thought, oh. Thank God I have a quiet, romantic dinner after a terrible race, where Norberto Fontana had pushed me off. And then, the door opens of the restaurant in a little village in the middle of nowhere in Japan, and Norberto Fontana is there, And I thought, oh, dear. And my wife asked me, are you going to say hello to him or not? And I said, yeah, come on, Norberto, give me a hug. It was 1 year ahead of us still, in the same village, living door by door, because we were neighbors. We were neighbors.
Same apartment.
So we basically, and years after he said, I'm sorry, push you off.
Okay, recognize. Okay,
I push you off because I knew I couldn't beat you. The problem is that we lost the win, I mean, both of us because of that. Anyway.
Well, he looks the same, exactly the same weight. I think you weigh the same, or no?
I still I weigh the same, because I train every day, man. There's no.
That's why he have to go now.
No secrets,
Pedro, thank you very much for your time. Thanks for coming on the show. Juan, we have discussed Red Bull, we've discussed McLaren, we've discussed Mercedes, we've discussed Aston. We haven't discussed Alpine yet. For the second race in a row, both cars in the top 10, and they weren't even confident coming to Barcelona, and yet they delivered. Gasly qualifies 7th, Ocon lines up just behind him.
Well, yesterday at the pen, I asked both drivers why they were so fast, and the response was, okay, we don't know, and that's good. We were expecting what he said, coming to Barcelona and not be competitive, even if they were competitive in the last couple of races. They're proving step by step that they are much better than how they started the season. It was very bad start of the season for Alpine, and now I think they surprised everybody, because on Friday when Gasly was 4th, I say, well, okay, it's Friday, level of gasoline or whatever mode in the engine, and then boom, they're there in quali. Okay, that was quali, 1 lap. Now they've both finished in top 10, and with he have a bad pit stop. One of the drivers have a very bad pit stop, and they managed to recover, outscore the Aston Martin. There was and I think Bruno Famen, I know him very well from Dakar and Peugeot, and he's a great guy. He's a very smart guy. And he told me it's not a thing, a day, a week, or a month. But Formula One, you don't have time in Formula One. No, you have to perform and revert the situation very fast. And he's doing it. I mean, not him, but the team under his management now. They started to change things, and now step by step, they're doing a good job. Not that big step, but I think sometimes you have to do like that. No, step by step. And see what happened next races. Both drivers say, well, Austria is not maybe going to be very good for us, but I don't know. No.
Well, except, right, Austria and Silverstone, quite similar racetracks to here with the number of fast corners, and it's clearly got a good balance through fast cornering.
Yeah, but that's why they arrived here thinking it was not going to be a good track. And that's why both drivers were surprised, because both drivers say the same thing. I don't know why we were so fast. And, well, that's a good sign. No? It's better to know why they're so fast than don't know why we are so slow.
And look, the points they scored here in Spain have bumped them ahead of Haas in the World Championship now. They're 7th. And I think they can realistically have their sights set on VCARB in P6, because they're only 20 points behind. VCARB introduced a huge upgrade here this weekend, and it really hasn't worked. The team say, look, we didn't even bring any of the old parts. We didn't even back-to-back anything. We're all in. We had all the new parts on both cars. I was chatting to Laurent Mekies, team principal on the grid, and he said, look, we're hoping to get loads of data from this race, and then we're going to go to Austria and try and learn from this. And we still believe in the upgrades. But Alpine, I feel, have got a bit of momentum now, and I think they should be thinking about VCARB.
Yeah, but you have a driver, obviously, they're going to think, even there's 20 points different, and they don't grab points in a big amount. But I think they're going to go for it. But also, I think, like a driver like Yuki Tsunoda, he's performing very well. They don't have a good race here, but it's very consistent. He's already confirmed for next year. He have a different, point of view. And which better place to bring upgrades than Barcelona? They know information. They're not testing anymore here like they did before. They don't know the track as well because the last chicane changes. But at least they have a better parameter, what they're going to see. And you have to compare what's going to happen on Austria and Silverstone. And that's the time to bring the upgrades. Maybe they adjust some kind of thing, so get the information and they work a little bit on that upgrades. It's better to do that than go and revert them just for one race. I think they have to understand upgrades sometimes works for some teams and sometimes work for each time, no? Red Bull was saying, we bring upgrades, everybody, oh my God, now they're going to go so fast. And now they brought some upgrades, they're not working. And, it happens.
Well, it's been a fascinating weekend here in Spain, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, and the season, even it's the same winner from the last races.
Only just.
Yeah, I know, but just there. And seeing 4 different drivers grabbing a pole in the last races, I think that's promising. And we know we're going to see reactions from Red Bull, but I think McLaren is in a good form. We're going to see some reaction also from Ferrari and Mercedes. And I think it's going to be like that, no? I don't think an extra team is going to be, at least in this part of the season, fighting for poles or wins. And we have Hungary, Lewis got the pole last year, George won there the year before. There's a Lewis-Hamilton track. I think it's, 6 weeks with 5 races. Yeah? You're going to be having a lot of shows.
We are. I think you're right. I think it's about those top 4 teams now. I think the gap back to Aston is too big now for them to join the party, I think, anytime soon. And so sort of Aston are slightly stuck on their own in P5, and then there's sort of VCarb, Alpine, Haas, Williams, Sauber.
Yeah, I don't know.
In that sort of battle.
Sauber, no, it surprised me a little bit.
They had a good qualifying,
They
didn't
have
they?
a good quality, and Joe was performing well. Ferrari engines were very fast here in general, but then you have the package of each team, and they don't perform very well. Well, Hülkenberg is surprising at 1 lap, no? It's showing why they confirm him for Audi. Sauber is still no points. Williams surprised me. No, they have much better start of the season last year. I love Formula One how it's now. I know.
It's fantastic. I can't remember it being this close in the 25, 30 years that you and I have been involved. But Juan, it's been fantastic to have you on the show, and Pedro, of course. Can I get your driver of the day? So Lando Norris, again, got the vote on the telly. Who was your driver of the day?
My driver of the day, I don't want to go by feelings, but I think was Max. This time it was not easy for him. He proved that he knew, and all the team knew they have to do something in the start, and he did it. Okay, George passed them both, but he overtook Lando. And I think after that, he managed the tires. I go fast 1 lap, then I go fast the other one. And when he realized he was giving everything and Lando started to close up, he knew he cannot manage to do a little mistake. He did a little mistake, no? In one of the corners.
Turn 7.
Yeah, turn 7. He said, whoops. But after that, he was performing perfectly. The team also with a pit stop, the strategy-wise. I mean, I would love to say Lando because he deserved also the win, but for me it was Max this time.
I think what he's doing in that Red Bull at the minute is astounding, and it's in a way, it's everything I want him to do in that Red Bull, because he's been so dominant these last few years, and he's now proving just how good he is, and it wasn't just the car over those last couple of years. So well done to Max. So he gets our vote. Lando got the TV vote, and I'm sure that win is going to come soon for Lando, because it's a great little package, that McLaren Lando Norris one, isn't it?
It will be very good, not for Red Bull, but if it's in Austria. No, and Lando performed very well. He got his first podium over there. And I think we're going to see another surprise. Now, we have surprises this week and the weekend before, and we're going to see another surprise. Formula One is always surprising everybody.
So the top 10 look like this. Max Verstappen took his 7th win of this 2024 season, coming home just 2 seconds ahead of Lando Norris in 2nd, and Lewis Hamilton took his first podium of the season in 3rd. George Russell was 4th, and then came the 2 Ferraris of Charles Leclerc 5th and Carlos Sainz 6th. Oscar Piastri was 7th in the 2nd McLaren, ahead of Sergio Perez 8th, with the 2 Alpines of Pierre Gasly and Esteban Ocon rounding out the top 10. In the Drivers' Championship, Max Verstappen's win here in Spain sees him stretch his lead at the top of the standings to 69 points, ahead of the new 2nd-place man Lando Norris. Leclerc is 3rd, just 2 points behind Norris, with Sainz 4th on 116. Perez is 5th, 5 behind Sainz, and Piastri is 6th for McLaren. The 2 Mercedes are 7th and 8th, Russell ahead of Hamilton, Alonso is 9th, and Tsunoda is 10th. In the Constructors' Championship, Red Bull, on 330 points, have a 60-point lead over Ferrari in 2nd, with McLaren 33 points behind Ferrari in 3rd. Mercedes are a lonely 4th on 151, with Aston Martin 93 points further back in 5th place. Then it gets close. VCarb are 6th on 28, Alpine are 7th on 8, Haas are 8th on 7, Williams are 9th on 2, and Sauber have yet to score.
Well, it's been an incredible strong performance from Chloe Chambers over the course of this weekend. She started on the front row of the grid for the first time this season yesterday and again today. She managed to take the lead of the race from Abby Pulling at turn 1, and she crosses the finish line first to take her first win in F1 Academy. A fantastic result for her.
Right, let's talk F1 Academy now, because Abby Pulling's run of 4 wins in a row came to an end in round 3 here in Barcelona this weekend. Pulling did win the first race on Saturday and started race 2 on pole, but Chloe Chambers blitzed past her into turn 1 and went on to win by more than 6 seconds to take her first victory of the season. The Haas driver told me just how she took such a dominant win.
We knew the win was right in sight, starting on the front row for both races, so I knew I had 2 chances at it. So, kind of working just to make sure that start was good for today, and was able to kind of really capitalize on the start, take the lead into turn 1, and then from there on it was kind of smooth sailing to the end. Of course, it's a lot easier to be leading, especially at a track like this where the tire deg is so high. So I was able to kind of use that to my advantage and pull away for like a 7-second lead, I think, in the end.
And to do it on home turf with your Campos team as well, right? I guess they're pleased as well.
Yeah, I mean, of course, the team is pleased. It's really good for the team standings as well as my own driver's standings. Winning here in Barcelona with the Spanish team at their home race meant a lot for them, I'm sure. And I was happy to kind of, give them that win.
Chloe, what does this mean going forward? Because ever since you got that first podium in Miami, I feel that you and the car have really come alive. You're now, tied with Dorian in second place, I think, in the championship. Do you feel like the championship starts now in a funny kind of way?
Yeah, I mean, Jeddah wasn't our best weekend. I knew that for sure I could get better results from there on, but, to have a win this early on in the season was a little bit of a surprise to me. Of course, in Miami, my qualifying wasn't so great, but I was really able to make the most of it in the races. That track is far easier to pass on than somewhere like Barcelona, for example, so I really, really knew I had to kind of improve on my qualifying pace to be able to have a shot at the win here in Barcelona. And luckily I was able to do that on Friday and qualify second for both races. So it gave me a really good shot at the win for, 2 times during the weekend.
And I'm guessing that now you've got this momentum, the summer break is coming at a bad time because we've got to wait till Zandvoort, till the next round now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit upset that we aren't going to be in the car all the way up until Zandvoort. As of right now, I don't have any testing planned either, so I may, come to Zandvoort a little bit rusty, but hopefully I'm able to kind of keep my skills sharp on the sim and, work with the team during the summer break to kind of improve on what I am weakest in currently.
Have a great break and enjoy the rest of the season. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
It was great to see Chloe take such a dominant win, and her father was in the crowd just below the podium and looked incredibly emotional. Her first win in F1 Academy, and she now draws level with second place Dorian Pan on 81 points in the standings. Pulling still leads the way on 147, but it looks like we could have an open and exciting fight between the top 3 in the upcoming races. For more reaction and analysis from round 3, go to f1academy.com or follow at F1 Academy on social media. And the next round takes place during the Dutch Grand Prix weekend in Zandvoort from the 23rd to the 25th of August. We will, of course, be back next Monday from the Spielberg paddock with our review of the Austrian Grand Prix. But for now, thank you very much for listening. F1 Nation is produced by Formula One and Audioboom Studios.